All right, let's get started. So my name is Dave Castanon. I'm here with Datex Corporation. I've been in the supply chain industry for over 20 years. I've worn a couple different hats as a business analyst, as an implementation person, implementation manager. So I've seen a lot in my 20 years, right? And today we're going to talk about kind of where the industry was, where it is today, and what are some of the emerging trends that everyone needs to be prepared for. So we're going to be looking at specifically, right, warehouse management technology and how some of these things are affecting the landscape today. So what are the key trends that are impacting our industry? One is AI, right? And AI is kind of permeating everything these days. My father, who's 75, uses AI to plan his vacations at this point. Robotics and automation, right? Before it was just a buzzword, something maybe nice to have. Now, majority of the facilities I visit either have some sort of robotics and automation or it's in their immediate future. What is an LCAP platform, right? Low-code application platform. What does that mean? How does it affect us? And what are some of the benefits of it? Cloud containerization. So we talk about putting things in the cloud. Again, I'll use my father throughout this speech. I tell him, back your photos up to the iCloud. If you drop your phone in the pool, they're all gone, right? So what does putting it in the cloud mean? And making integrations easier. As we talk about AI and LCAP and robotics, all of these things need to connect seamlessly together. And how do we do that? If there are any questions throughout, there is a mic there, just some housekeeping as well. So if you have any questions, we can either leave them toward the end, or if you head up toward the middle, I'll take questions at any point. So what are some of the key trends, like we talked about, affecting our industry, right? So one is the acceleration of e-commerce. I think in 2020, e-commerce was about a 4.2 trillion, with a T, dollar industry. By 2027, that's anticipated to be upwards of $8 trillion, right? And that's not just affecting traditional consumer packaged goods. We're seeing changes to the food distribution business, right? With Plated and these other subscription services, right? We have a few at home myself, where they deliver fresh food or organic stuff direct to your home, right? So it's not just one vertical, it's affecting all vertical markets. Labor shortages. So 1 in 3 warehouses are citing labor shortage as a key component, and there's multiple factors to that, right? There's increased labor costs. There is just a change in landscape of who wants to do the labor. There is overnight shifts. There's just a lot that goes into labor shortages. And about, a few companies have had to turn down business because they can't keep up with the labor, or they can't staff the warehouse. Supply chain complexity. Again, we talked about the e-commerce, and that's going to come up quite a few times, but there's also the change in the amount of SKUs that everyone's going to manage. Again, the new iPhone just came out, right? My 8-year-old is excited about it, even though he's not getting one. But they come in a variety of colors and shapes and sizes, and I think there's a new iPhone Air at this point. I don't even know what that one is. But the point is, companies are creating more and more SKUs to create personalized experiences for customers, right? You want the orange one, you want the blue one, whatever. So what does that mean for your business? That's more SKU management. That's more opportunity your users have to mispick, right? It just adds another layer of complexity. On top of that, right, they now want reverse logistics and same-day shipping and kitting and all of the value-added services, right? You can get your name imprinted on the back of the iPhone or Love Dad or whatever it is. So again, they want one-stop shop to do all of these things for them. How do we handle that? And then supply chain volatility. I don't think I need to speak to anyone here about that, but between tariffs, right, and rerouting trade, right? There was rebels attacking ships a few years ago, and they had to reroute ships through the Cape of Good Hope. That added 10, 11 days of shipping time, and it increased fuel consumption. Right in Baltimore there, the Francis Key Scott Bridge, right? That caused an 11-week shutdown at the port of Baltimore. I live in Tampa, Florida. We got blasted by 3 hurricanes last year, right? So that affected our supply chain and goods coming into Florida, right at the port of Tampa. We were a big port for bringing in bananas and stuff from South America. So all of these things, again, affect our industry. And some of the technology drivers that we're seeing is cloud adoption. Again, cloud can be a scary word for some businesses, right? I want to hold on to my data. I don't trust it in the magical cloud, right? I want it in my closet. Well, we'll talk about some of that and why that's kind of changing. Again, automation and robotics, it's kind of it was a nice to have before, And now it's transitioned from an innovative trend to an essential component for a lot of the companies that we're working with. Again, to maybe compensate for the labor shortages or just the increased throughput, right? We're seeing it more and more. You need an API-driven architecture. Again, as we connect, all of these things we're talking about, how do you break down those data silos and connect your systems, right? TMS, WMS, ERP, robotics, shopping carts. Again, having been in this industry 20 plus years, I can probably count on one hand with cutting off a few fingers how many WMS systems I've implemented that's a standalone data silo. And even those, maybe for budget, they didn't connect to other systems, but they should always be connected, and you should be exchanging data in a real-time manner with external systems. AI, again, that's coming here, and it's coming quick, right? So we've seen it embedded in various systems. You can just ask, I'm not going to say it because it'll ask me, but you can ask Siri for something, and it's going to use ChatGPT to tell you the weather outside or whatever with the artificial intelligence. And then AI IoT sensors, right? So that's given warehouses true visibility into real-time data, not just from an inventory level, but from equipment, from temperature sensors in the room. So real-time data visibility and tracking, right? So these are all technology drivers that we're seeing that are in the market. Key challenges, right? So legacy systems. 1 in 5 warehouses, I thought the number was higher, but 1 in 5 warehouses are running systems that are over 15 years old. We've replaced a few of those systems, being a WMS provider. We replace competitors, we replace pen and paper, and we replace systems a lot, especially in today's day and age. If somebody's been running a green screen iSeries platform for 15, 20 years, that thing is so ingrained in their business, and their lead IT developer is gearing up for retirement, and nobody knows how that thing works, right? So how do you get around that and break down those data silos? There's complex integration requirements. We talk about API a few times here. They're never easy, right? They shouldn't be that hard, but they're never that easy. But when you're trying on a legacy green screen platform and you want to integrate Cubiscan and a Locus Robotic and a print and apply, it gets a little difficult. I'm not going to lie to you there. That kind of goes hand in hand with the technical debt, right? So how does this thing work? How are we going to replace it? How are we going to scale it, right? So there is a lot of technical debt that are ingrained in companies, and they're just scared to perform that open heart surgery and rip it out, right? Rip it out is a little vulgar for open heart surgery, right? Carefully remove it. But how do they replace that? How do they break down those walls that's going to disrupt operations? What's the path of least resistance to getting that implemented? And another big one is scalability, right? As there's spikes in demand, as e-commerce, as Prime Day, as every holiday has, I think there's a new Prime Day coming up this week, as there's a Prime Day or a Black Friday or a TikTok thing goes viral, how do you keep your system scalable, right? So a lot of those legacy systems were built on servers, and if you wanted to increase memory, well, there's a reboot and there's things we need to do. So how do you make your system more scalable to deal with the evolving pressures in the market, right? Adapting to new business. Again, e-commerce is going to increase your throughput. You think about if you're shipping to retailers, right? You're generally shipping truckloads or LTLs to the retailers, Nordstrom's, Publix, Costco, et cetera. You're shipping, depending on the size of the facility, 50, 200, 300 trucks a day. When you get into the e-commerce realm, you're dealing with 30, 40, 50,000 packages a day, 50,000 orders. How do you scale that, right, throughout the day? Are you paying for a super massive server 24/7? Or is it more scalable like an accordion, right? So these are some of the things that we're seeing in the industry. So what are we trying to accomplish by talking about a future-ready WMS, right? We're trying to make sure that you guys are ready to handle, again, the upcoming changes in the market, right? The lowering of prices with robotics, the leveraging AI, and we'll have some use cases throughout the presentation on how these things are leveraged in real world, right? It's no longer hearsay or just the tier 1 companies have this. Again, AI is everywhere. I'm surprised how free it is and sometimes how scary it is, right? But it's everywhere. So how do you make yourself more marketable, right? If you're a 3PL to more prospects that, yes, we can take on your new business. We can give you insights. We can connect to your shopping cart. Your customer has we have a few customers that go on Good Morning America. They call them the GMA carts, right? So they're going to go viral for 48 hours because they're about to promote their brand on TikTok or on Good Morning America. And, well, what does that look like for scale in the next 72 to 48 hours? What happens if new tariffs drop and you got to reroute vendors and connect new EDI? And again, it's a whole bunch of compliance when these things happen. So we wanted to make sure that everyone is ready for these key market, these key changes, and these disruptions and these requirements come up to play. So what does that mean for us, right? What does it mean to move to a future-ready WMS, right? And to me, there's four main pillars of this, and they're up on the board there, right? They should be, and we'll dive into these much deeper in the next coming slides, but it should be based on a low-code, no-code application platform. We'll talk about what that is in a little bit, but companies should be embracing that, not just from a WMS perspective, but pretty much any software that you're looking at this point should have some low-code, no-code type of deployment, and we'll get into more details about that. We'll talk about a containerized deployment, right? So cloud containerization. What does that mean, right? And how does that affect you from being upgrade-proof, right? Not upgrade-proof, but when you promote something to production from test, how are we going to make sure that work, right? How are we going to make sure that what we tested is what's going to be in prod? Legacy environments, kind of rolling the dice sometimes a little bit. We want to make sure it's delivered as a service, right? So we'll talk about that. But again, I have young kids, if you guys can't tell, and I'll give it as a service delivery model, right? I'm subscribed to Disney Plus. New Disney movie comes out, it's just on my streaming service, right? So that new movie is available, the new episode is available to watch. It's not like I bought Disney Plus and the 10 DVDs that came with it, and that's all I'm locked into for the rest of my life. Same thing with any SaaS type model. You should be getting new features, new functions that you're able to leverage in your environment. An AI should be integrated into the core, not really an afterthought, right? We've seen some competitors throw some chatbot on the screen and say, oh yeah, we have AI incorporated. It should be a core key component of what's being done in the implementation, giving you true insights and learning how to prompt the AI, right? There's a whole new emerging field in education called prompt engineering, right? You can ask the AI, what's the weather tomorrow? And you can ask a very pointed question of what is the weather going to be like? What are the chances of rain? Should I bring an umbrella? And you can get two very different answers between what's the weather tomorrow and a more detailed prompt. Low-code application platforms. Being a tech guy, so my background is software engineering, this one is kind of near and dear to my heart, right? So let's dig into what a low-code application, and I'm going to stop using that word salad, and we're just going to call it an LCAP platform. So what is an LCAP platform, and how does it benefit businesses? So think of the traditional, and I wrote software that did this, right? You have an EXE or an MSI that you double-click, and it installs this big package on your desktop, and you double-click that icon, and it launches your application. That's definitely, I mean, I still use it for PowerPoint, let me be honest, but that time has kind of gone away for traditional software where you're, again, these computers don't even have CD drives anymore, don't even have USBs, they have the USB-C. Everything is kind of on the cloud, right? Microsoft Office, I mean, everything is at this point. So what does that mean and how is it different from a legacy application? So an LCAP platform basically gives citizen developers, right, somebody with a non-technical degree to go in and really tailor the application to what they need, right? So think of Visio, where you can drag and drop fields to a screen, you can control logic, you can control flow without getting into the source code, right? So it is a front-end tool for citizen developers to be able to streamline their operations, make changes to the operations as needed, right? So you onboard a new customer, they have this special unique process. It's no longer a 6-month development cycle with your vendor, crossing some fingers, hoping the upgrade goes well. This is a versionless type of system where a citizen developer can make those changes in a sandbox and deploy them to prod with a high level of confidence that they're just going to work. So we're going to go through a couple use cases of this, right? So one, we have a large customer, right, 20 or so warehouses. They had one of these antiquated, not antiquated, but one of those legacy type applications, right, GUI based. It wasn't green screen, but very click heavy. Like looking at the application, it's one feature set for all of the warehouses, regardless of some were maybe doing e-commerce and some were not, some were retail. Everyone was looking at the same screens. So if somebody needed a Shopify order number on the screen, everybody got the Shopify order number on the screen. 19 warehouses, don't worry about that field. You guys make sure this field is populated, right? So they went from this very legacy, GUI-based, one feature set for all warehouses. And again, I would equate it to sitting in I flew up here at 7 a.m. yesterday, and I got a good look at the cockpit because we're delayed 45 minutes. So it's very akin to sitting at an airplane cockpit with all of these features and toggles and buttons and fields and which one do I ignore and which one do I use, right? So if you're trained on it, great. You know how to use it, right? Those pilots know what they're doing inside and out. You sit me at that cockpit, I have no idea where the on button is. And it's kind of the same thing with when they were onboarding new employees, right? So again, they have temp labor in the warehouse. They have CSRs with high turnovers, right? So it was very difficult for them to onboard new employees all the time. So they basically, when we implemented them, we have an LCAP platform, and we were able to streamline, even at the facility, while you're dealing with this customer, when you select that customer, the screen changes. You're at this facility, the screen changes. So it was very tailored to the person sitting in that seat at that point, right? And again, I'm a car guy as well. You sit in a Tesla or a Rivian, it looks like the most simple, basic car in the world. You just got that nice screen in the middle, but the technology behind it is actually very cool, but it's giving you that nice user experience at the end of the day. Another example we have is from a life sciences customer. They, again, we'll talk about that a little bit, right? They implemented Locus Robotics, and they completely shifted their business with their technology, not just ours, right? ERP, WMS, Epic system. So they kind of full gamut, did a full technology overhaul. And one of their main issues was, again, they're serialized, so it's medication. So anytime they have a pack verification station and they need to verify the serial number that was picked. Well, in the facility, sometimes you scan this serial number, but you grab this one and you put it on the tote, it goes through the conveyor, there's a pack verification. Well, if it's the same SKU, the same lot, and the user just picked the wrong serial number, do you really need to go back and put that serial number and dig through and find the right one? Or can we just create a serial number swap, right? So validate everything else, and if that serial number is fine, just update the serial number to the actual one you just captured and put the other one back, so to speak. So we were able to develop this in a matter of hours for them, where if this were even on our own legacy platform, this would have been a couple sprints worth of work, a deployment, as opposed to, oh, this is the requirement on a Monday morning, Tuesday morning, it's maybe a little aggressive, but maybe Tuesday afternoon we're in production with it. So these are just some of the use cases that we've seen. And the last one I'll talk about is one of our clients does a vessel management. Well, they didn't do vessel management, but they called us up one day and said, hey, our owners bought space at this port. We have stevedorings, and we need vessel management. We can't find what we want in the market. Can we use your LCAP platform to develop what we need? And that is a perfect use case for what the LCAP platforms, again, not just ours, are there for, right? So they were able to build their own data objects. They were able to build screens and connect it with the WMS platform and basically built out their own vessel management platform utilizing an existing tool set as opposed to going to market and buying something maybe off the shelf and then having to integrate. This is what an LCAP platform, where it really shines and what it's really able to give clients. Some of the considerations, right? It's not a magic bullet. We talked about that life science company, again, very strict with DSCSA and FDA compliance. Who's governing that thing? Do you really want every citizen developer adding a new field? Probably not, right? So how do you govern this? How do you secure it? And how do you maintain control as you're deploying this out? Again, it's a great, I don't say in concept because it is great, but what are the constraints you need to build in to your organization to keep these things going? Cloud containerization. So again, everything is up in the cloud, right? I use the iCloud example. I back up all of the pictures of my kids to make sure when they drop it in the pool that I can still access all of their little baby pictures, right? So what does cloud containerization really mean? And we'll go back to using the term a container, right? And the shipping container came about in about 1956, and you were able to pack a shipping container, load it on a vessel. When it got to the port, they can put it on a rail car, they can put it on a truck. You didn't need to break your container, right? You can just ship it on that container and it's going to get to its end destination. That concept is kind of what cloud containerization is. You are building your app in a container, and then you're moving that whole container to prod. You're moving that whole container somewhere else. So it's no longer dependent, and I'm in IT, and unfortunately I've uttered these words, works on my computer, why isn't it working on yours, right? So it's because I have different configuration on my computer, I'm using Chrome, you're using Edge, like all of these edge cases and finger pointing. Containerization kind of eliminates that, right? You deploy on this container, and it doesn't matter if you're on a Mac, on a Chromebook, on a Windows machine, that container is just going to work, right? That also allows for faster upgrades. So again, any cloud-based application using containers, it's a real-time upgrade. It's no longer this, oh, we need to upgrade you, we need to log off the system for a half a day, and we'll cross your fingers that the green light comes on and we're good to go, right? So the cloud containerization type of upgrade, like when we do an upgrade, we upgrade the container, the user's on a browser, upgrade happened, he has no idea, transparent to him. Next time that like page refreshes or he clicks save, it's going to pull in the new container automatically for him. So there might be a new field that just popped up, right? Like, and we'll show a pop-up that says, hey, we added this new field, but for them it was seamless, right? It's like logging into your iPhone and seeing we needed to update Facebook or update Outlook or whatever the case is. So those are some of the benefits of cloud containerization. Again, a couple more use cases, right? So it's busy season. You find a bug. We were processing 20, 30,000 orders. We're up to 80, 90. There was some viral TikTok moment. We found a small bug. It's crippling operations. How are we going to handle this, right? So that's where that real-time or zero downtime upgrades really come into play, is you have the ability of deploying that quickly without affecting operations. You can't, let's be honest, afford to shut down operations during a peak or during one of those viral moments. You have to be prepared to do that upgrade in real time without any downtime. Scalability as well. So the nice thing about containerization and putting these things on the cloud, we talk about servers and being bound by the server that you're on. So you have this server, it's got 32 gigs of RAM and whatever server specs that you want to throw on it. Well, it's busy season, we need to throw more specs on there. You physically have to add that, or if it's a VM, you need to allocate the resources and do a reboot, and then you're stuck with that. If you, say, want to decommission it, you have to turn it off again. What cloud containerization and scalability allows is the ability for, think of it like an accordion, right? So as your operation scales, say you're peaking at 3 p.m., well, the resource is going to increase and you can create boundaries, like don't go out of bounds, right? Like a football game. Stay within these because I have cost considerations as well, but it'll increase resources during peak. And say your operation shuts down at 8 o'clock and you have no transactions, it comes all the way down again until you start using the application the next morning and the resources start increasing again. So it does allow for scalability, increase throughput dynamically. Nobody has to make that decision. You set boundaries and say, well, when we're at here, throw on an X amount of resources on it. And again, it happens real time. Some people say, and again, I'm a little bit in sales, right? So everything is in the cloud. We have conveyors, and I've seen like time requirements of by the time it hits the scanner and gets the diverter, we have 400 milliseconds that data needs to pass back and forth. I don't care what kind of internet you have. That is a tough ask for a fully deployed cloud system. So one thing that cloud containerization allows is connecting that to your on-prem servers as well. So it really shines, and it's adept at running on various environments. So it's easy to set up a controller on-premise that communicates with the cloud application. So we've done that a few times as well with, again, those high-volume conveyors and diverters, and when it hits the scanner, right, it's got to go to pick zone 2. We don't have a minute to make that call. It's less than a second that we have to make this call and send the call to the diverter. We talk about the SaaS delivery models, right? So I use the Disney Plus, the Netflix example, right? And at first when SaaS came out, right, like the saying is nobody ever owns anything anymore, and I kind of feel that a little bit with all of the subscription services I have at this point. And a lot of people said it was an accounting decision, right? You bought something, you bought software, and it's a quickly depreciating asset. Where now with SaaS, from an accounting perspective, you have more of a managed, fixed operational expense, right? So that was always the accounting spin on it. But it does have practical uses as well. And what I mean by that is it just works, right? If there's new features, you're not paying extra for them. Whatever Moana 2 or whatever just came out on Disney Plus, like it's not an extra subscription for me. Like it just is in my environment. So we have clients, again, that will log in and they'll see feature sets and they can hit yes or no on things that they want, right? So we're constantly pushing and our clients are pushing. We have a marketplace that they can publish apps to, that they have the ability to download new features and apply new features real time, right? So it's gone away from we have yearly releases or quarterly releases, right? We talk about that zero time down upgrade. We are constantly, and our clients are constantly publishing things to the marketplace where we can deploy new features very quickly, new movies, so to speak. SaaS delivery also, right, there are a few big providers out in the market, AWS, Microsoft Azure. From a security perspective, that's night and day from hosting it yourselves, right? We have some clients and we encourage all of our clients to host on one of those two big platforms or a real hosting platform. And some of them, I've had discussions with them. They're like, well, we're just a little cold storage with 4 warehouses. Nobody's going to look for us. Like, actually, you're the prime target because they know that you're not ready for this. I think we're okay. And then we get a call a few months later. Oh, we got hit by a cyber attack, a ransomware. We have a server backup from 2 days ago. Is there any way to get that 2 days worth of data? And it's no, right? Like you are in control of your own backups. With SaaS delivery models, there is real-time replication. I mean, you can make it as, I don't want to say as complicated, but as elegant as you want, right? So we have clients that are geo-redundant, real-time replication. They're on Microsoft Azure, so if East Coast 2 goes down for whatever natural disaster, it automatically it's replicated and it goes to Central 1. User has no idea, maybe they saw a 2-second delay on a click as it switched, but that geo-redundant real-time replication kept them up, right? So they have, extremely high RPOs, RTOs. It's no longer, well, we got to rebuild the database and we got to do X and Y and Z. Again, that's not the norm. Clients can pick and choose what is an acceptable RPO, RTO for them. But we do have some with, like I said, that geo-redundant real-time replication. AI integration into the WMS, right? And there are 4 main types of, let's call them AI, right? There's regular ML, so machine learning. That's algorithms that look for uncovering patterns and make recommendations. There is deep learning, which is more like a human brain, where it's like neural networks, and it's good at image recognition, speech recognition, language recognition, etc. There is so machine learning, deep learning. There's reinforcement learning. And that is trial by error, right? Like the machine will just keep doing the same task over and over and over until it finds the best route to do that task, and then that's what it sticks with. This is big in robotics and gaming and things like that. And then there is generative AI, right? That's the GANs, the GANs, the GPTs of the world that are creative, right? So they can comb the internet and they can write books and they can do all of these things. So how are these things applied in our industry, right? Like I said, it's every day where my 8-year-old and my dad are using AI, but how is it used in supply chain today? So we've seen it quite a few different areas, right? A big one is labor forecasting. So we've seen it. There's good companies out there that I've seen. Tact.io is very good at this, and we've done a couple other ones as well. One use case that I was involved with is we had a customer, and they have trucks coming in, and they needed to, for the labor that we talked about earlier, they didn't want to overstaff or understaff labor. So based on historical data of the carrier and the product and X, Y, and Z, we're able to upload that to an AI model, and it can give back in real time. Well, based on the upcoming schedule you have tomorrow, traditionally, these type of orders and these trucks take X, Y, and Z to unload and break down, and these are the VAS you add, right, the value-added services. So AI is very good at determining those kind of things, looking at the historical trends and patterns and predicting, well, based on tomorrow, your headcount should be, 43, and they should be allocated to these doors based on these are floor-loaded or these are palletized, you need to stretch wrap, or whatever the value add is. AI is very good at doing some of those features. Same thing with inventory levels, right? So There's an Amazon DC coming up in a couple miles from my house, but when you order that same day shipping and I order something at 9 o'clock and it gets there at 4, Amazon is using AI to look at the ordering patterns in the vicinity, what should be stocked in the vicinity, right? So like my area is very residential. Let's say they're going to stock dog food and batteries and, those sorts of things. Why? Because people in my area have families and kids, and that's what they're ordering all the time. Whereas opposed to maybe another DC that's maybe more, in the middle of, there's no DC in the middle of New York City, but the surrounding area maybe in Queens. Well, what do people there order on a daily basis, right? What do we need to keep in inventory there? What's same-day shipping versus two-day shipping? So we see that a lot in terms of now using AI to do inventory planning. I don't think it'll ever replace anyone there, but it's certainly a great asset when we look at inventory planning technologies. We've seen it in our own application with help chatbots. So again, gone are the days of, let me click through this user manual and find where the help is for this particular screen. You can now just bring up the help assistant. How do I create an order? And it's going to give you step-by-step, look at the screen you're on, like what's the context, and give you self-aware help in the application that you're using. There's also native language assistants now that are coming up, meaning, again, those e-commerce platforms, right, or those e-commerce fulfillment type centers, there's 20,000 orders in my system. You can ask the AI, group all like orders together that are going to have the same pick zone and create a way for it, right? That is something that AI can now do for you instead of a user or I need the IT guy in here to come in and write the SQL query for me. AI will just do that for you. You can use AI to write code. I do this all the time. I don't know why anybody does software engineering anymore. But if you have natural language rules engines, so you can say, you know what, AI, I want to ship all FedEx orders less than 20 pounds, create a rule that releases those orders every 2 hours. AI will code that rule for you and deploy it, right? So natural language coding with your AI assistant. And then all of the ad hoc reporting and insights, right? So we have this built into the platform where you can say, show me trends over the last 2 weeks for orders going via UPS, and it'll give you a breakdown of order type and weight and box size. And again, it's AI, right? So you can ask it what you want. It can create graphs. It can choose a graph if you don't give it one that, make a pie chart, make a bar graph. Again, very interactive. We've seen this now within dashboards on top of just plugging your data in Copilot or something else. So these are some very real world use cases that we've seen as well. And the last one, and one that I'm very excited about, is agentic workflows. So those of you who are not familiar with agentic AI, it's basically a team of AI agents that work to complete a task. So we're working on this with client sends a random Excel file with orders. They want you to upload it, right? Typically, this is an integration point, and you got to map the fields and do all of these things. You can have an AI agent one, takes in the file, and does its best job at mapping. So this field looks like, most of these look like SKUs. This is going to be a SKU. This is quantity. This is shipped to. It'll do its own mapping. It'll pass it on to another agent that says, here's a file with the mapping. Code this import for me. So again, it's a team of agents that are able to do work, right? So think of it as a little task force that you have set up to, again, I use that example of importing a file, but that's a real world example where I've seen and implemented, and it does great quality work as opposed to telling a client, you send me this format, don't support that, please cut and paste every cell into this new format that I can support. So now that we've talked about those 4 pillars, right, how do we make sure that we're ready for change, right? I've seen companies, and I'll tell them, if I'm on a sales cycle, right, and I see a company going from green screen or paper, and they wanted to jump into AI and robotics, I'm like, dude, we need to get Wi-Fi in here before we do any of that, right? So let's get some barcode scanners. Let's just get a computer in here, and then we'll get rid of the paper, and then we'll roll some of these things in. So make sure that you know what you're biting off, right? All of these things are definitely cool, and it's very easy to get excited about, but make sure your organization is ready to take on that change and that challenge. Again, make sure you have the basics. I would say a phased delivery is always beneficial, right? Like I told that one client going from paper and they wanted to jump into the deep end. Let's do mobile devices. Let's do data capture. Let's get reporting. Then we'll throw in AI on top of this. And yes, we can start leveraging pick carts and robots. But let's phase it. We don't need to do all of this day one. you guys are going to be implementing for 5 years, right? Let's start getting some things in place, seeing improvements, seeing ROI, and then it's easier to justify everything else. So we just want to make sure that everyone understands what the strategic roadmap of this looks like. It's not a one-stop shop where you're going to go to the Costco, buy everything, load it into your fridge. It's definitely a more phrased approach as we look at these new systems. We talked about some of the practical use cases, right? So onboarding customers in weeks and days, not months. Cutting down the training time, right? So you're not teaching anybody to fly that 747 anymore with these LCAP platforms. Again, I'll make it like Steve Jobs, they should have worn the turtleneck, but when you show the iPhone and how easy it is, it's just easy, it just works, right? The zero downtime upgrades, so the ability to upgrade with zero to minimal downtime. If you're using AI, always keeping humans in the loop. I always recommend, it's called hallucination, and AI can definitely hallucinate. I've seen it do it before. It'll just invent things. I don't know if you guys heard about the case that was in front of a judge where the lawyer clearly used AI, and it made up a case that the judge was like, that's not real, and they looked it up, and AI invented a case and made up names and created this whole thing, and the lawyer looked like an idiot up on court. So you definitely got to fact check AI and make sure that humans are still in the loop and it's never just running. And then things to consider when looking for some of these things, right? So as you look for technology partners to implement a future-ready WMS, right, just make sure you're in the right dealership, right? We had a client looking recently, and they were looking from everything from something built on Access to like Manhattan Associates. It's like, make sure you know what you're looking for here. Make sure the technology is right for your organization, right? So make sure they chose something that's popular in terms of a native language for you to do the customizations with, whether it's TypeScript, JavaScript, that it's nothing proprietary, because again, if they get acquired or something happens, it makes change a little more difficult. Again, not just with WMS, right? But make sure things are LCAP, right? We implemented Business Central internally. That's an LCAP platform. You can customize screens and do whatever. So any modern day platform that you're looking at should have some component of LCAP in there, if not the main driving component. If you're buying something and they shipped you a CD, don't even open it, just send it right back, right? So those are just some of the things that I wanted to highlight when you're looking at purchasing a new system or implementing something new. And that's all I had today. I went right on time. I have left a few minutes for some QA, if anybody has any questions. Yeah.
Zach Hill, 3-Tier Consulting here. One of the things that you mentioned was the integration roadmap. And it seems that a lot of companies that I've been involved with, and my team has been involved with, they wait for the IT implementation to then reconfigure their business processes. Should it be the other way around, where your business processes are configured to the outputs of the...
Yes, so that was I would say that approach, your first approach there, was definitely the older way I saw it 10, 15 years ago. Today's, and that's why we have citizen developers who can do these things, is the business should be driving the output, right? Not the other way around. This is the output, conform the business to make sure it looks like this. It's the business needs this, make sure the output can handle this, right? And that's the way it should be going forward. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you noticed software engineers losing their jobs because of this, or is it more the software engineers are using AI to expedite?
I would say they're using it more to expedite. Like one of our developers flat out admitted he's 4x productive because he's using AI. He used AI to code another AI, right? So like it makes them more productive. I would say like, yeah, there might be some shrink, but it's certainly, I wouldn't say it's going to take away jobs. It's learning how to leverage it. It's another tool. It's not a replacement, right? It like, I started school when we didn't have IntelliSense. You have to remember all of the dot this, dot that. Not, like it's similar to, I would equate it to something like that. It's just going to make your job easier. Yeah.
We've had some experiments going along the route that you suggest, that you start small, grow, try and test the waters, those kind of things, using SaaS approach, and ran into some trouble with the models that the AI platform vendors sell you what we found is they really try to lock you in, and kind of that gets in the way of a approach where you try things first, see what works, see if this platform works, or maybe something else. Any comments on the pricing models of the suppliers?
Yeah, I mean, although I don't know everyone's pricing model, ours is more like a la carte, meaning pay for what you want to use, right? I would like, we're not the Disney Plus, and not Disney Plus has the regular, and then they have the premium or whatever, right? So we have a few different layers to that, like we call them components, and you subscribe to the components that you want to use. But again, I'll equate it to that cockpit example. You need to get from A to B. You need to go to the next neighborhood. Do you need to fly a plane there, or do you need to drive a car there, right? So you can scale with our, again, I can't speak for everyone, but you should be able to scale and pay for what you're actually using, not paying for a 747 to go to, you know, the Capitol building from here. Yeah.
Let's say leadership, they're asking, you know, for AI initiatives, but we're still operating in pretty disparate, like, data silos. Like, is it more important to have the data governance before looking at the AI?
I would say yes, in my honest opinion, because that way it's giving you a more holistic view of all of your data, as opposed to looking at silos and giving you one perspective on it, right? You're looking at order information, but that can be very disparate from the actual shipment information, where you have X amount of orders, but how many are we actually shipping a day, et cetera? Are we falling behind? I would say it's definitely better to get all of that in one data lake and then apply AI on top of that to get a more holistic view of what you're looking to get insights on. Yeah, sorry.
Is the price point for this technology available to the smaller upcoming operations, or is it?
No, this is definitely, like, we're, as Datex, we're not a tier one provider, right? We're more of a mid-market, and we've definitely seen some of the AI, and again, it's free on a lot of things. It's a matter of if the vendor, and I've seen some vendors do this, not in WMS, but in even just life, looking at software, where they'll say they have AI, they throw an AI on top of it, and it's just a help chatbot. It really doesn't do anything. So just make sure if you're looking at that, even if the lower price point, that they've really incorporated AI into a useful way, or are they just trying to check a box that says we have AI, right? Like, I would say I've seen them both ways for sure, where some companies throw it as a marketing term, as a buzzword. Yeah.
I've been involved in like a large scale enterprise WMS implementation with SAP. And then
The Widowmaker.
now working in a smaller business where we don't really have the scale and resources like this last gentleman's question, where we'd be looking at enterprise-wide or AI to develop and implement large-scale solutions or drive huge projects.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about the way that we might be able to utilize AI, I think about the solutions of the user exits for those kinds of larger platforms where you say, you know, my secret sauce is in this one type of solution that I need to develop. And that's where I put my super hack coder on it, or my best picker. Are you seeing places where AI might help kind of like scale at that kind of problem, or maybe bring junior associates along to where like they might be able to utilize that kind of thing?
Utilize the AI and
Yeah,
stuff.
to like develop and graduate, and then you build, you know, rising tide, lift all boats.
Yeah, so you're talking about like leveraging staff to leverage the AI to help with the insights and
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe bridge the gap between what you couldn't just technologically rip and replace an entire system,
Yeah.
but maybe you graduate slowly.
Yeah, so migrating to a new system slowly, so we've seen that both ways, even with our system, where customers will use components of it, like they'll use the LCAP to overlay on top of all of the systems, and then slowly migrate stuff to, let's say, could be any, right? But migrate stuff to like our platform, but they overlaid it on top in the beginning. So it'll be like our UI, let's say, utilizing all of the legacy components, and then behind the scenes, IT, your IT, our IT, whoever, are changing the wiring underneath to leverage all of the new tools with whatever that is. All right, any other questions? All righty. Well, thanks for your time. Datex is in booth 702. Appreciate it.